Thank you very much. Rob, why are we dressed like this, and why are we looking like that?
Well, there is a story to the madness, and it's all Fabian's idea. No surprises there. It is actually we're gonna be drawing, or I'm going to be drawing. Fabian's going to be painting all of you today, and at the end of it, we're going to auction it off for charity. So something. I mean, Fabian, why did you come up with this idea?
Is the aim to raise money or just sympathy from the charity?
I don't think we're going to raise too much money, to be honest.
I don't think so either.
Mate, I'm drawing on paper plates. Don't you push your luck. But no, I went out to buy a canvas this morning because I bought like a pack of 20 in case I get it wrong. And then I forgot that my daughter had her birthday party, and the 20 kind of ended up with 20 kids. So I looked this morning, I didn't have anything, and the only one I could buy in the shop was a 2-meter one. And I was like, that I'm never going to paint that in a year. So back to the small ones. But we're doing our typical warm up. In case you haven't seen our previous shows, that's good. If you have, you should know what it is. Rob, give us the warm up.
You're going to land this on me again.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that this is definitely Fabian's idea, and I'm going to throw it back at Fabian, back right at you.
Woohoo, okay. So, if your business would be a Tinder profile, what would your slogan be?
Do we have to pretend we've used Tinder and
yeah,
you know?
Would you like something
your
else
first
you're
now
more
you said
familiar
that.
I have no idea how the platform works because I'm a happy married man.
Well, that's why we're saying your business.
Yeah.
wow.
So we had everything around driving direct to always ready and available. Nick?
Which one is left the good one or right the bad one?
Bad one.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! It'd just be like, just take a dive and swipe left. I'm a risk taker though, so.
Guido, what about you? If your business would be Tinder profile?
I would say it's easy. Let's connect with to the whichever direction left. It's easy to connect with me. I don't know.
Catherine, now I'm really intrigued by your one.
Mine might be a little bit more boring. I'd say intelligent, reliable, and fun to be with.
Ooh, very nice. We're bringing some sophistication, finally. Finally. Max?
Well, it's been a long time for me to use a service like Tinder. But I would say smart and enjoyable company.
Oh, very nice. Rob, I'm not going to bother you anymore with that. I can see you're already going crazy with the painting. So, today we are talking outsourcing, insourcing, and software as a service. So, in other words, are you going to pay somebody else to build your own technology stack for you? Somebody who knows what they're doing. So I'm not talking just anybody, but professional. Mm-hmm. Are you going to start doing stuff yourself? AKA Wixing it or Spotifying or all the premium free stuff that you can get out there? Or are you continue software as a service? Now, I did a poll this morning, if you saw, and most of the people will still are going for software as a service. Now, in order to see an unbiased vote from you, can you hold up 1, 2, or 3 fingers? Number 1 is do it yourself. Number 2 is having an outsourced, but it's still built for yourself. Or is it 3 software as a service? Should I repeat it?
Fabian, before...
Is it left for keep them or right for get rid of them?
Fabian, the question is here, are we talking about independents or major hotel chains? Because this determines the answer.
I know.
The answer is directly dependent on whether we're talking about major hotel chains or we're talking about independents.
Okay, let's talk about chains first, right? But let's talk about not the big brands. Let's talk about small to medium size. Anything between 10 to 50 hotels, so to speak, right? So would you, if they called you and said, hey, what do you think? Should we just buy our tech stack? Should we build it ourselves and hire developers ourselves? Or should we get an outsourced company to build for us?
I would say buy it first.
So we have software as a service, software as a service, software as a service, software as a service, software as a service. Oh, number one, you said build it yourself?
No. You change the
Change
order.
yes.
Change the order, my friend.
Keep up here.
Coding, yeah.
Okay.
Outsource it. I'm firm believer in outsourcing. If you're mid-size and smaller hotel chain or independent, and insourcing if you're a major hotel chain, and that's actually what's happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, we see that now with Marriott and with Accor. And what's your thoughts on Accor now sort of struggling a little bit because of the pandemic? So what's everyone's thoughts on the latest sort of update, I guess, with D-Edge on Accor? Because actually it's probably starting to cause a bit of a burden for them.
Well, I mean, listen, D-Edge, Accor should have never involved itself in a company like D-Edge. And the main reason is that they have no idea how to manage digital technology and digital marketing company. That's the first thing. Second, their grand plan. I mean, listen, I love the French. I love French cuisine. I love France and Paris, but this globalist
That doesn't mean you buy a
thinking,
factory, right?
but this globalist thinking that Accor hadn't, we will create this platform and we will have tens of thousands of hotels joining our platform, and we'll have the cloud service, the D-Edge to provide the digital marketing and technology. It was doomed from the very start. And the main reason is that it's human psychology. If you're an independent hotel in Paris, or let's say in France, and Accor has 2,000 hotels in France, and I will join Accor and the Accor platform, and I will use their services, no way. No way. So in this sense, it's exactly the same as booking. And, if you remember, they acquired a company similar to D-Edge called Boutique, which they renamed to Booking Suite.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. It's complete failure. And the main reason is that you don't partner with your main rival, with your main competitor, or with somebody who eats your lunch. So that's where the issue with this initiative was to begin with. But later, I would say Accor did a very smart move by partnering with Synexis, with Saber's CRS Synexis. And actually, Synexis is building now the new Accor CRS, similar to what they did with Wyndham here in the United States. Similar to what Amadeus did for Intercontinental Hotel Group. So that's insourcing, because you use Synexis, you use the core technology, but you tweak it, not you tweak it. Synexis and Sabre tweaks it under your specifications and to fit your type of business. So I think that that's insourcing, but its best, and we will see a lot of similar initiatives. I mean, Expedia did exactly the same to Marriott. So in this sense, major hotel chains, insourcing, partnering with big tech vendors out there, and using their, I would say, purchasing power, forcing those vendors to adapt their technology to their own specifications. We will see more and more of this happening, because developing a PMS in-house, developing a CRS in-house, that's so 1990s. It's done. It's gone.
Yeah.
Let me throw that over to Dan, right? Because Dan, you're kind of correct me if I'm wrong, the brand for independence. Yeah, the independent brand for independence kind of speak, right?
Yeah, we would always have the chain for independence, where explicitly not the brand.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. There I misquoted. The chain for, right? So you're essentially bringing all the positives, but you're allowing somebody to keep their own identity.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at, so our philosophy is what the big chains can do in terms of providing all of this back office technology, this revenue management capability, an independent wants, but they can't afford to go through those big insourcing or develop their own type processes. And so we do all that work for them and then distribute it across our 2,500 hotels. Now, I agree with Max's point, which is like, you know, the big chains, they do have the financial resources to do some of this stuff. They can build some of it themselves. They can partner with some of these big companies and sort of tweak and customize. And so they do some of this stuff themselves. I think it raises an interesting question, though, which is kind of like, you know, which is, should they? You know, and I don't know how much they need a lot of that customization. I think they feel like they have to do it, because I think some of these big chains feel like, well, if they don't do that, then what's the point of them? Because in many cases, the brands are less important and less interesting than they used to be, because they've neglected making those brands particularly interesting. So I think they feel like, you know, Accor feels like it has to do this stuff, but it's not like a great competency of theirs. It's not like a great strength of theirs.
No. So
I don't know that it creates more value than a hotel going and working directly with Synexis or directly with, you know, something like us. I feel like Accor or Marriott, or rather, they feel like they have to do these things, but I don't know how special what they're creating is, and I don't know how differentiated the secret sauce that they end up producing is versus any other chain.
But listen, somebody just let me chime in, because that's a very interesting topic here. Somebody told me that these customizations are not more than 15%. 15 to 20%, somebody told me. And the main reason is it's not only the APIs that need to be built so that, let's say, data flows into their intranets and their reporting tools and all of their back office corporate crap, where, you know, the properties themselves can go on the back end and pull a report for last month, for example, and they wait 30 hours in order to download the report, but that's a different story. My point is that so these customizations are not as extensive as you might expect, but still there are some customizations. And second, all of these are public companies. All the major hotel chains are public companies, and, you know, for their shareholders, it's very important the message that these public companies do not depend on a major third party. This is like a no-no for any public company.
But they
that's why
you're creating that's exactly the point. Well, they are completely now at the mercy of Synexis, no?
Well, but what they relate to Wall Street is that we have a custom solution provided by Sabre, by one of the industry leaders, blah blah blah, or the industry leader. So they make all of this look good, for, you know, and present themselves from a better angle, if you will. That it's a custom solution developed specifically for them. So anyway, I think that customization is needed simply because these are such humongous. It's like an aircraft carrier. It takes half the Atlantic Ocean to make a turn. All of these big chains, and they have a lot of embedded legacy technology, which even if they partner with the most advanced third-party technology vendor, there must be some kind of customization, simply because otherwise the CRS will not be talking to the, you know, to the PMS, which is already customized, or not talking to their CRM, which is already customized, and so forth.
But isn't that just piling the pile of poo higher and higher, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you're essentially not saying fix it. What you're saying is, just put more band-aids on it, right?
But it's a heap of band-aids.
But is this
Think
not the
about
same as basically just going, well, we want that whole hyper-connected core and we're going to find the best solution for every part of the business. But you know what we're going to do is just get someone to go and build the whole thing and stick it together, therefore defeating the entire purpose of the API and the hyper-connected core and that. I really kind of agreed. I mean, they're both great points. I think what Dan mentioned before about you can't provide an out-of-the-box experience to guests when you just buy software out of a box, and that's what the big chains are doing. They just use the same thing that's rubber stamped property to property. They don't have any ability to customize the experience. From resorts require different operational tools than city hotels and those kind of things. So,
but then you're saying software as a service is dead.
No, it's
because
not
that's
that.
what software as a service is. It provides a.
Oh no, I look at it as I provide the software as a service being hyper connected and the ability for you to go, well, I need X, Y, and Z, and I can get that from 4 different vendors, and I know that on a cloud and an integrated platform that it's all going to flow perfectly together.
Right. And what distinguishes you is the strategy that you apply using these tools. So
Yeah.
the tools are just kind of the conduit of how do you execute. And then that really makes a difference. We could all be using the same race car, but one person's going to win at the end. And that's where the skill, really what differentiates each hotel. And that's why I think software as a service still has the future and is kind of the direction we need to go in, because let's not focus on how do we send the information. Let's focus on what we're sending, when we're sending it, and the strategy behind that versus the mechanical pieces of it, which I think a lot of companies get lost in, and they think, oh, it's easy, I'll build it, but then they realize I got to maintain it, I need to innovate, and I need to stay ahead, when really they're not focused on the right thing, which is what the strategy is and not what are the tools. So have someone else build it, maintain it, innovate, and you keep focusing on the strategy on top of it.
And I think what you see in a lot of these big organizations, I mean, at the end of the day, these company needs to drive value for their customers and be relevant. Sometimes you get into these political games with the technology, the CTO of that person trying to struggle to defend their relevance of their people in their department, and so they're trying to say, well, we can make by partner and outsource and all the rest, and putting together the whatever charts to justify all that. But at the end of the day, the IT solutions need to support the strategy of the business, and that's almost, I would argue, almost never be completely in-house, because you're simply not going to keep up with the relevance, with the speed, with even being able to hold other people accountable, get those additional views, and being able to take some of the best pieces and putting it together, and probably getting away from this idea that somehow by doing it in-house, you're going to have this unique, better solution because of some vision that you've been able to execute. And though maybe that vision was initially correct, to keep up with that and to have that be more financially efficient to your bottom line in any sort of midterm, I just think will completely crumble. And that's what you're starting to see. And with something like COVID right now, it is bringing this hyper financial viability back on the table, right? How can you be really efficient and effective? And it's not necessarily changing the rules of the game, but it's just that effective efficiency. You better have it, as efficient as possible right now. Otherwise, all that fluff and.
Actually, you're very right about COVID, because the first people that were furloughed or laid off from all the major hotel chains, guess where they came from? They came from their IT departments.
Yeah.
All of these projects that were in-house projects were put on pause, and people will either fired or put on furlough, which has been extended, and then laid off at the end. So in this sense, I think that COVID put once and for all an end to the in-house software development at those hotels, at the major hotel chains.
Here for me is the scary part, right? And it maybe not our generation, but the generation that comes up to us. There seems to be that expectation on everybody's mind that technology is free, right? You get YouTube for free, you can become a YouTuber, right? You want to build your own website, just put it on Wix, right? You can have it for free. Or you want to stream your music, have free Spotify, right? And it seems that constantly new stuff is coming out where it's kind of like belittled to say, you know what, you can pay somebody $50,000 for a website or $500,000 for a website, but you know what, just do the Wix thing and you're going to be okay. Right?
I don't know if I agree with that, Fabian. I feel like, all of those examples you gave, they're all, the free is an acquisition approach. It's a
freemium, freemium. They call it freemium.
Making it low risk to try this out, to get an introduction to the product. And it's taking that decision away from being a board decision or a procurement manager decision and saying, hey, have at it, everybody. Everyone have a go at this because it's not going to, it's free or it's pennies.
Yeah.
And then when you start kind of like, oh yeah, this is the thing, you can then think about, okay, now do we want to pay a bit more for the tiered option? That's just a smart acquisition strategy. And I think, some of those things, it's free if you accept advertising, but that's on the consumer side. On the B2B side, it's all like, look, if you want the very basic thing, there's no marginal cost to this, so sure you can have it. But if you want like the extra bells and whistles, if this is going to become an integral part of the way you operate your business, if you've seen the value that we create, now you don't mind putting up some dollars. And I think that's just smart acquisition approach. I don't worry about that we're training people. I mean, I look at, we're a SaaS company, but I look at our SaaS bills, what we're paying, for Google Suite and what we're paying for AWS. I mean, people are paying for products. So I don't think we need to worry about we're training the world.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We've just democratized the decision-making process by taking away that big, scary dollar upfront thing.
Fabian, it's like Zoom. It's the freemium model. It's free for everybody, but if you want all of these features that make your life easier, then you buy into one of the paid.
Is that like a fancy background?
I'm putting hypothetical out here, right? I fully agree. I think the Zoom stuff, the best thing that they did on the planet was to say, we're going to fix the security bugs, but we'll fix it in the paid version, right? Most brilliant move ever, right? To do that. But let me ask you this. So imagine we're talking about a normal mid-class hotel, 3.5, 4 stars, 50 to 100 bedrooms, right? What technology should they buy? If you had to say, those are the 2-3 things, or maybe even 2, right? Which one would you recommend you say, this you need to buy?
Well, but
how long is a piece of string?
Let's identify before that.
To say ours before this call, I guess I forgot to pay you all off. No.
Fabian, the main thing that hoteliers need to realize is the customer journey and how they engage, acquire, and retain customers. That's so. If you think along those lines, the digital customer journey with the 5 phases, the dreaming, the planning, the booking phase, the experiencing phase at the property, and then the sharing phase after that. If you think along those lines, then it's very easy for you to figure out which type of technologies you must have at the property. I mean, that's obvious. Obviously, you need to have. You will hire a digital marketing agency to do all the, the content marketing, all the digital marketing, and so forth. That's obvious. You will not do it in-house because nobody has the skills to do so in-house. Of course, you need a CRS. Of course, you need a revenue management system. Of course, you need a CRM. That's more than obvious. And of course, you need a website, not a Wix website, but a website that is SEO empowered, that has all the bells and whistles, that has all the merchandising qualities and so forth. And then, you know, during stay at the property, of course, you need messaging services, you know, like all the guest services technology for issue resolution, for communicating. Nobody touches the phone in the hotel room. Nobody today, not even a single guest, touches the house phone. So how do you communicate with these people? They call with their smartphones, they call the front desk and say that they need an extra pillow. And then the front desk does what? They put it on a piece of paper and then they hand it to somebody. It's a recipe for disaster. So that's why you need an issue resolution, mobile technology, messaging technology, and so forth. I mean, the mobile assistants, more than welcome in this particular case. And then, of course, you need all the CRM and loyalty marketing in order to retain those customers. Because ultimately, if you look at independents and you described an independent, the average repeat business for independent hotel is 10%. That's it. 10 to 15% if you're lucky. There are exceptions, but that's the average. So just imagine, you wake up you're the general manager, you wake up in the morning, and very happily you say, oh my God, I have 10% of my guests, I know that they're repeat guests. I know their names, I know their habits, I know their preferences. So I have to find 90% additional. You know, I and my team, we have to secure 90% of the additional guests for tonight. It's an impossible task. In the same time, you have the major hotel chains. The average is 60%, 60. So what they mean is that repeat business, especially now in this crisis and post-crisis, will be the ultimate priority for any hotelier. So how do you secure a repeat business? Not by using Excel spreadsheets for your revenue management, that's obviously, and remembering the front desk, tasking the front desk to remember what each guest liked, what their preferences were and so forth. I mean, you use technology, and of course, that's how you retain business. You send follow-up emails or messaging, drip campaigns, marketing automation, loyalty marketing, and so forth. And that's how you bring people back to the property. But the point is that, yeah, sorry.
That 60% though surprises me a little bit because, I certainly don't see any of that in any of the chains that I've worked for on the big grand scales. But is it somewhat of a false economy? Because if I have so many bedrooms worldwide and I have so many hotels distributed worldwide, is it just that I happen to have been in the same chain? It might have been one of the 50 brands.
The 60% is chain wide. The 60%. It's actually 62% for Marriott and Hilton. Last year, 62% of their room nights were generated by loyalty members, which means repeat business. That's chain wide. Now, of course, there are certain properties which got less, and certain properties that got more. That's obvious. I mean, but we're talking about averages here, and if you look at the average independent hotel, I mean, I know few hotels here in Manhattan that have, not now, but last year, for example, that have 80-85% of repeat business. That's occupancy derived from repeat business, which is great. But those were the exceptions. So my point is that averages, 10 to 15% independents, 60% across all the major hotel chains.
So
it's an interesting one though, because it is somewhat of a false economy. I mean, you talk to many people. We did a piece of work on this last year in Best Western, and go out into the not only surveys, but just went out and did video shoots in the streets. And people were opening up their wallets and they'd have 5 loyalty cards in their wallet, or on their phone have 5 loyalty cards. So it's not so much that they're a loyal customer. And I'm a CEO of a major hotel brand, so I probably should be fighting for this cause, but I'm not sure. I think it's a bit of a false economy to say that they're a loyal customer to you and that they're a repeat customer to you just because they've stayed at a Garden Inn over here and they happen to come to a Hilton here. It's stretching, but it's switching because we're almost going to brand away from technology. Switching the conversation, I've got a question about the OTA space, because we see now recently France, and I'll see a few eyes roll now across the screen. French government are talking about creating their own OTA. So I'm interested to get the panels or get everyone's thoughts on what that is. Mug, you seem like you've got an opinion here.
They're just going to throw the money down the same pit they threw it when they created a Google competitor 10 years ago. What a flipping joke. What a joke.
That's what you really think.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, no, go for
But I'm on the fence about it, so that, you know.
Guys, it's a government has no job in creating online retail anything. The government has the government job is to regulate commerce. That's fine. To create equal footing for everybody, enforce the laws, but to create an OTA, it's like creating a government-run coffee shop. I mean, listen, when I grew up in communist Bulgaria, all of the coffee shops were government-owned. Mm-hmm. All the employees were government employees, and there was no coffee.
Right. So
there was no coffee. I kid you not. Coffee was a rare commodity, and you had coffee shops where government employees were just sitting behind the counters, and they were selling nothing because there was no coffee. And there was a notice, no coffee today, and then maybe tomorrow there will be. So you pass by, you go, and so government has no job in dealing with retail. And again, it's I'll tell you. I mean, the government was involved, the U.S. government, when Obamacare, this healthcare reform and so forth that became notorious around the world. They invested $2.5 billion in creating a website, government website, where you go and you sign up for health insurance. You don't go through your employer. You don't go through private insurance companies and their websites. You go through this government website. And it crashed the first day, and they couldn't make it work for the next 6 months after they spent $2.5 billion.
Because they did it in-house, they should have outsourced it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we see that now. Every country that's gone down the path of, hey, just let the private sector come up with the COVID tracking app seems to be broadly working. The ones where it's been, hey, let's have the civil service create this as a project, and they've used good partners, Accenture and others. It just doesn't work. Like, anyway, it's obvious it's a terrible idea.
But by the way, guys, the French government, listen, Europe has its own issues that derive from history, all of the monarchies where there was always a centralized government that made all the decisions for everybody. And when they chopped off the head of the latest French emperor and they installed the republic, nothing changed in the government structure. It was still centralized government. So if you look at France has a very centralized government where the government makes most of the decisions for regular people. But what I mean is that when Accor, as a French, the biggest French hotel chain, complained that Booking.com is eating their lunch, if you will, and Booking from French hotels were generating more revenue than Accor was creating from its own hotels in France. And when the French government was the first one in Europe that outlawed rate parity and the rate parity requirements in the contracts between the OTAs and the hotels, guess who won? The OTAs. Because when you have a hotel 50 to 100 rooms, 3.5, 4, 5 stars, and you have a website that you haven't updated in 6 years. You don't invest any money in SEO, in SEM, in digital marketing, in social media, in content marketing, in paid search, and so forth. And all of a sudden, yes, you don't have to maintain rate parity. Even if you come with a great special of $1 or €1 per night, and second night free, there's nobody that can see this promotion because nobody comes to your website. So what they mean is that this whole government intrusion into rate parity in France backfired, and the only ones that lost were the actual hotels. Because yes, they had the right to post whatever rates they wanted or specials or packages on their websites, but nobody was going to those websites. And then many of the hotels didn't even dare post anything on their websites, not to piss off the booking rep or Expedia rep. So in this sense, any government intrusion in this sense, I believe, is backfiring, and I don't believe in this initiative at all.
But let me ask you a different question. Now you are a hotel, right? Let's bring it to the current times, right? I know we're talking a lot about trying to retain guests, getting guests, right? But the fact is, in most places, there aren't any guests, right? Or very little guests, right? It sucks, but it's true, right? So do we now see the re-emergence that I don't want to sound demeaning, but the departments that were constantly overlooked, something like a housekeeping department, right? Or something like finance, are they having a resurgence right now to say, this is now the time for us to shine? I mean, we saw the jobs that were hailed as heroes wasn't the CEO of some pharma company or somewhere else. It was a guy actually saving lives, right? So, and Nick, I'm also looking at you here because you were a GM, right? And you were in a brand that is very technology savvy, right? Has there been a shift of what is useful versus nice to have right now?
Yeah, 100%. I think that look, everyone's trying to deal with the new normal, and there's been reduced headcounts at all the properties, and they're financially dealing with what the impact is long term, and as a result, they might have a lower headcount. They look at it, but that doesn't mean that work goes away, right? Like, they still have to complete X, Y, and Z administration behind the scenes. They've got to squeeze more and more efficiency, and it wasn't that, you know, the hotels aren't always looking for more ways to be efficient, but now they've had this massive event thrown on them, this catalyst that's really had to kick it up a notch. So that's where we see sort of now, I guess, the improvement in automation. And I think a lot of properties and hotels who traditionally might have been, oh, you know, we're sort of happy doing X, Y, and Z manually, or those kind of things, they're now really reviewing how that really looks in the future and going, well, this is the catalyst to make that change and to move forward. And like, I think, yeah, there's obviously, you know, if there's a silver lining, it's that there's everyone across the group. You know, you see these contactless check-ins coming in, like, that technology's been around for years. People have never really used it. Now suddenly the market's just flooded with them and those kind of things. So yeah, it really is an opportunity. And I'd be curious to hear what Catherine says coming from that area. And it'd be the perfect time in my mind if I was a GM to be going, well, you know, every second in housekeeping counts, right? So what am I doing now to be, you know, really reviewing how that operation's going, and how do I keep the standards with less people monitoring it, less people keeping the department flowing and moving, and how do we not, at the end of the day, you know, the loyalty statistic, you know, yeah, people stay because they've got a card in their wallet, but what actually brings them back is the experiences they've had at the hotels and the interactions they've had with the staff, and that they like the place to stay. So how do you maintain that brand expectation that you've built up over the entire history of your brand, and now you've got to come out of the other end of COVID with half as many people to maintain it?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. So you know, this whole economic model now of the hotels. They're fighting for financial viability, and so the dollars just have to go further, and you have to be much smarter with less. And so this is where you're relying on your IT solutions to drive value and to drive those efficiencies and drive effectiveness. And you're exactly right. I mean, specific to housekeeping, exactly, it's a huge labor pool of people. A lot of those people were off or furloughed. And now that hotels are either opening back up or ramping back up, they're bringing on a lot less of the staff. And whereas before, these efficiencies, I think, in good times, the hotels aren't just pushed to really drive some of these value elements, and now they're just being forced to. So, we definitely see the interest, exploding in this front. How can they do more with less? How can they cluster management layers across hotels? Models that were always available to them. It just, it's just, necessity is the mother of all invention. And I think this, and also with housekeeping, who thought that cleaning protocols and whatever would be the headline of every paper, right? It's the cool area. So can you audit track what your people are doing? How efficient are you? What have they done? What they haven't done? How do you schedule extra jobs for them? Because you're right, the work does not go away, and actually the work is increasing, because instead of that business traveler that does, is never in the room and doesn't make a big mess, you have these families, and we know that those rooms take longer to clean. They're eating in the room, it's dirtier, so you have to be smarter. And these solutions.
Labor costs.
Labor costs. Saying catalyst back in and again, I've been working in the industry for a long time, and the last time, and specifically, I remember working through the GFC and being at a hotel and in Australia, we've got a massive labor cost, right? So this is a 256 room hotel that had 7 people in accounts, and we came out of the GFC with only 4. And I know for a fact that hotel now has 1 person in accounts, still got 256 rooms. So, that will never change.
My first job in the hotel was housekeeping. And I just remember managing 150 housekeepers. We were in the basement. This is a World Trade Center Marriott. And no one really knew what we were doing. We were just kind of left to defend ourselves. And now I'm seeing, like on LinkedIn, the GMs, having to do, drive the shuttle bus to the airport, doing housekeeping. I'm just hoping to say, okay, finally you realize all these opportunities of, points that maybe you didn't get to. It wasn't the shiny item to be looking at. And now that they're actually in the trenches and you have to look at each cost, really give that opportunity to rethink, okay, how can we be more efficient in housekeeping? How can we be more efficient in every department? And as people look at, okay, my cost now basis isn't really fixed, it's variable. How can I be more smart about this? And how do I bring in technology? So I keep hoping, I think it's a healthy experience that we're going through.
Yeah, and to build on Guido's point, I think the variabilization of cost structures is critical. Something like this will happen again. Hopefully not global, but there's always a volcano. There's always an earthquake. There's always a financial crisis. There's always political unrest somewhere in the world. So how do you take this opportunity and be like, okay, that cost. When those come back, how do we make them variable costs? Rather than it's a person, because, hiring and firing people is emotionally painful for the person, for the person who has to do it. It costs a lot in terms of severance. So how do you avoid that going forwards by actually turning these costs, whether it's housekeeping, whether it's finance, whether it's revenue management, into variable costs going forwards, rather than the fixed cost of a person sat in a seat?
Technology is the only answer to this, and introducing the right technology. Labor costs are between 35 and 50% of the cost of a hotel, depending on the category and so forth. 35 to 50%. So, this is the largest cost factor. And then you have all the, the commercial mortgage, you have all the real estate taxes, you have all the utilities, distribution costs, of course. But labor costs right now are, I would say, the biggest thorn in the side of hotel owners. And believe me, the robots are coming. the robots are coming and are marching in big time, because a housekeeping job, because you have been a housekeeper, I have been a housekeeper, you know, in my student years. A full service hotel, the housekeeping job consists of 175 tasks. If you dissect the cleaning of a room, you know, it's 175 tasks. The robots can do 150 of those today. So there's no robot on planet Earth that can do all of the 175 like mini components of cleaning of the room, but they can do almost 150 of those. So the way that I see it is that housekeeping robots are coming, supervised by humans, but let's say one human supervises 10 robots. Second, all of these security guards in the lobby replaced by robots. I mean, a security guard in the United States at a hotel costs on average $25 an hour. You can rent a security robot for $7 an hour. So there's no option.
Wait, Max. Who's going to program? Who's going to coordinate all these robots on every floor? You're going to have robots falling off the hotel. That's the problem. All this technology has been around, but who's the orchestrator? Who's looking at across all these different departments, tying this all together?
Let me jump in. There's two major problems. A, somebody will hack the robot to shoot people, and then that's it. No more security. Right? Yes, number two, the problem that we are fundamentally facing in hospitality is you have Guido coming in saying, you know what? The greatest thing under the earth is your channel manager. That's what you need. That's the most important thing. Nick comes along and was like, screw Guido. He doesn't know anything. The thing that you really need is your property management system. Forget everything else. And you have Dan coming and say like, screw them. It's revenue management. Get an RMS. And Catherine comes and says like, no, screw this. It's all housekeeping, right? We can't forget that our customers, hotels, they are not experts in those things, and yet they have 5 or 6 different people coming in that the biggest thing under the earth is this new technology and the other one. And chances are you give them something to self-check in a hotel and they pass out, right?
I appreciate that pitch, Fabian. The problem is they need that help to coordinate.
A robot to hold them.
But Fabian, what you're raising is the level of education in our industry. It's simple as that. And by the way, because I teach hospitality technology at NYU, and I did my research 3 years ago when I started doing this, there are only 1 or 2 other schools than NYU where hospitality students are taught technology. They have no idea about technology. They have no idea that you need to basically to be a technologist, not software developer, not even IT, but you have to be a technologist in order to manage all of this. You have to know what technology can do for your business.
But even if you know the technology, everyone's looking at within their own individual silo. You need a new position in the hotel that's one's overlooking.
I fully agree.
All these different departments, so it's great. I can go in and install one system.
No, it's yes and no, because no one of these silos is going to be, they have to work with one another. I mean, for example, in space, we link to the PMSs and we get information from the PMSs because there's critical information there to be effective. So though there are these different areas, there has to be touch points, and a valuable solution will make those touch points actually bring that value back to the customer. So
I just think hotels have a hard time crossing over. Each department stays within their own silo, and there needs to be a more cohesive approach within the hotel and looking at the full journey of the guest within the employees. I think it's really hard for each department to optimize their own department and then yet alone look at across the entire hotel. So how do you take a holistic view from the dreamer to the person checking into your hotel and be able to have that flow? And I think it's a struggle. We have, like you're saying, there's all these different systems out there, but yet They're not integrated well, and I think hotels struggle with that. And I think that's where all this stuff's been around. Rob, you did a fully integrated automated hotel years ago with technology that's been around. Like, nothing's new. We just need to really be smarter about how we approach each piece and each journey and tie it together with a bow.
Throw in who owns the guest, because when I check into a hotel, the first person who says how's it going is an OTA. That strikes me as bizarre. It strikes me as really bizarre that I go to my room and some bizarre reason I get a text saying, "Is everything okay in your room?" And you go like, "Screw you," right? But isn't that the fundamental problem? We have this high horse and say those things, but we've kind of forgotten that the guest has been taken away from us, right?
Yeah, but the guest who books
I don't agree. Because I don't think the guest has been taken away. You say "screw you," and I think that I think the vast majority of people who stay in a hotel thinks that they have a relationship with the hotel. And yes, they use the OTA to make a booking, and sure, the OTA asks them how is the room because they want the feedback and they want to seem like they're involved, and they ask them post-trip. But I think ultimately your relationship as a traveler is still with the hotel. And I say that as somebody who spent a lot of time in OTAs thinking about how we could own the customer. You can't own the customer because you don't run a hotel. You don't ever meet them in person. So I don't know if that's the big problem. I think a lot of this technology has been out there for a long time. It is difficult to tie it all together. My perspective is that it's less about an education issue or a multiple departments having, not talking to each other. The hotels we work within don't have multiple departments. They are, the average hotel is not a 300-room property with a revenue management department and a housekeeping. They have 20, 30-room properties. It's not a matter of departments not talking to each other. It's not a matter of, the hotel schools that they went to didn't teach technology properly. It's that there's one person on the front desk who's just kind of trying to deal with the shit that's going on every day. Or there's one general manager dealing with, a waitress that didn't turn up, somebody who's causing them strife in the back office and leaky plugs in room 17. It's just like most hotels are small. Most hotels have got a whole bunch of operational shit going on. They're trying to deliver some sort of excellent hospitality experience through that. And the idea of thinking about technology and how it all integrates together and how it all talks to each other, maybe they could figure it out, but it just doesn't get to the top of their list. And I can understand why.
The technology's there just to complement the operation. You're exactly right in that people stay in robots will never replace everyone in a hotel, because I go and I choose a hotel simply because I want a human experience, and I love a hotel experience, and but that's because I go and I interact with the team and I ask them, what's to do in the local area, where do you go for a drink after work, and those kind of things. And that's what creates those little moments that drives I'm going to sign up for the loyalty program because I like the way that I had a drink with the guy at the bar and that kind of thing. It's that human connection. The industry that we all sort of forget, it's built on human connections. The technology will always be the complement to that.
Nick, I agree with you. Because that's why we call this industry hospitality. I mean, that's obvious. But when we are serving tech-savvy customers, and we're serving them with 1980s type of services and technology and so forth, then there's a huge misconnect. You can smile all you want, or you can make your front desk clerks to smile and be nice and polite and personable all you want. If your Wi-Fi is not working correctly, if people cannot use their own streaming service to watch their favorite show on your TV and so forth, what they mean is that we are past the time when people went to a hotel. Think about this, 10, 15 years ago. They always saw the hotel as better equipped, with better technology, with better even linen, with better even bedding. I mean, heavenly beds by Westin, if you remember this whole movement, than their own homes. So basically the hotel was perceived as being a level above what you see at home. That's long gone. Now people go to a hotel and they see that the hotel doesn't have 50 of the things that you have at your own home.
I finally
But
have
the
a fax
hotel
machine
is
at home.
subpar. The hotel provides a subpar experience to if you just stay at home. So my point, and especially from as far as technology is concerned, as far as all of this, I mean, voice assistants, for example. You have one at home, you go to the hotel, there's none. You have to touch the house phone, really. I mean,
in
COVID,
20
I'm
years
not touching
working in the
anything.
industry, I've never taken a complaint from a guest who's like, my room didn't have an Alexa.
Well, it's coming. It's coming. Believe me.
Let me ask you this, right? Because I sometimes struggle with the fact that we have turned, and I think COVID is actually in the sense of it good for the industry, realizing that travel is not a commodity, right? Because we have taken flights, which was the thing, luxury, and did something and said, you know what? It doesn't matter. Fly anywhere, go anywhere. It doesn't cost the world. Low cost, anything and everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then we came into the experience part, and all of a sudden you heard this trickling like, don't worry about the hotel, right? You're just going to sleep there. It's nothing you want to do in the hotel. All you want to do is sleep and then go somewhere else. And for me, that was always a sad part, because the hotel essentially is what can make and break your trip, right? You give somebody a free hotel and I start drilling next door, right? Or you sleep next to a room with a crying baby all night. That ain't going to be a pretty week, right? And I agree with you on the tech stuff front, but I stayed once at a hotel and it took me 20 minutes to find the freaking light switch, right? Because it was so over tech engineered that I was like, this is stupid. And I know from hotels all over the world, there's always one light switch you can't find, right? Until you end up unplugging everything so it works. But sometimes I think we're just being clever for yes, you're right. We're using Alexa at home. Do I want my Alexa? Or I use Google Assistant at home all day long. My kids use it all the time. Would I use it in a hotel? I don't know. Would I use my own Netflix subscription on the hotel? No, but do I expect a Netflix subscription from the hotel? Absolutely. The last thing I want is to go in there and try and explain my daughter what is a channel and why can't I rework the program from the beginning. I mean, you're laughing, but it happens.
I agree.
You know what I mean? All this multiple device stuff. And I think we're just, sometimes we jump on that bandwagon of technology in the hotels and then kind of go to the lengths of really just making it undesirable. Like, oh, you can have your Wi-Fi, but you can only have 1.5 devices.
Listen, the main thing is that the future is bright. And I'll tell you, I agree with you that technology is important in the sense of people expect to find at a hotel room, at a hotel, at least what they have at home. Marriott and Hilton are working on smart rooms where, based on your loyalty profile preferences, your past stays, when you go to the hotel room, when you book a hotel, first of all, automatically this information is passed on to the property management system. And before your arrival, the room, actually Hilton is working with Samsung on this, the room automatically adjusts to your preferences. The lighting, the temperature, you like cooler rooms or you have warmer rooms, whatever are your preferences, immediately alert is sent to housekeeping, extra pillow, extra blanket, whatever your preferences are, and so forth. So what I mean is that the smart room expects you. The smart room knows who you are and adjusts itself automatically based on your preferences. So that's the future. And the future, by the way, that's not the future 50 years from now. That's the future that's coming over the next few years. So
I think one of the challenges to that is that Hilton, Marriott, us, Best Western, in a lot of cases, we don't own the assets. It's not our money we're spending. So we can have all those aspirations to have, mobile check-in. When I was at a previous company, it was easy. We owned all the assets. We made the decisions. We put the CapEx forward and we did it. It's very, very difficult in a Hilton or a Marriott or a Best Western or an Accor or an IHG where you don't own the asset and you've got to go to the owner of the hotel,
yes,
which might be thousands, and convince them that it's a good idea that the temperature should change or the lighting should change for a guest as they move around the world. I think it's not going to be as quick as in the next few years. I think that's a big aspiration that the brands might have, but it's not their money.
I worry that
Technicians are expensive.
Yeah, if you're going to spend CapEx on technology, to me it feels like you spend it on the back office where it helps you streamline your processes, where it helps you lower your costs, where it helps you do more intelligent revenue management, all that stuff that you spend a whole bunch of stuff and doesn't create any value to the customer. So you just kind of you automate and you make that as efficient as possible. When you're doing stuff with the customer, I don't know. I think I need like a dimmer switch in the room and to be able to interact with the company through my mobile phone. Like, this is the important piece of technology for me. If I can interact with the hotel through this, that's awesome. So if they do, if they'll accept a WhatsApp message, that's fantastic. If they can do that, I don't need a whole bunch of other consumer-facing tech. And precisely to your point, if you're going to start doing consumer-facing tech, then you've got to put that in every single room, which means everything, it's X times 20 rooms, times 50 rooms, times 100 rooms, and that is super expensive. The back-end tech, it's not so expensive. It's like one instance or one seat.
The other thing is, what we forget is, I had a conversation with somebody once in regards to, preferences and doing that stuff. And the response that I got was quite interesting. If I ask you what you like and I don't deliver to it, I screwed up.
Yeah.
If I anticipate and I don't get it right, nobody knows, right? And I think the difficult part in Rob, I agree with you, right? There's so many thousands of PMSs all around the world, right? Some are so legacy that if you're trying to build and put something in there, that's going to be impossible. It's going to be impossible, right? And fair enough, there will be attrition that some of the vendors will die, some of the technology will come. I agree. And what struggles me is, why are hotels so behind the curveball, considering that all of the hospitality are at the forefront, you could argue, of new technology? Because if some stuff hits viral, all the guests will know, and chances you will know. And yet, I remember when Facebook was already long in for 5-6 years, people were saying like, do you actually think we should put our hotel profile on there? Right? And it's kind of like, since when have you been using it? Oh, 5 years. Have you ever looked for a destination or a hotel? Oh, yeah, but I could never find anything. You kind of feel like, dude, seriously? But I think one of the other questions I have is, when we look globally from a perspective of technology, and we're looking at the current time, have we shown that there are fundamental flaws in the way we're selling, buying, and dealing with technology? For example, software as a service stuff, right? 2-year contracts. Is this still something that we should aspire, or should you really go down the route of pay as you go from a software as a service perspective? Right? I know we have a couple of software as a service on here, right?
I don't believe in contracts. If your product's amazing and it's the right offering, then why are you hiding behind a contract?
Yeah, I can say we are walking away from a 2-year deal right at this moment because they're asking us for a 2-year deal in circumstances that, clearly their technology is not going to be as valuable in 2 years' time as it is now. So I'm walking away from the contract. I think it's a model that's fraught with danger.
I fully agree. I mean, if there are major customizations to that you request from the third-party vendor, then there's a logic for them to at least ask for some kind of a commitment. But if you're buying as is, the software as a service or a cloud, some cloud messaging service, for example, at the hotel, or issue resolution or whatever IoT type of empowered software for the property, for guest services, and there's no customization, then pay as you go. Then no commitment should be required. I think that it's Zoom. You sign up. There's no commitment for Zoom. There's no commitment for Zoom. Even the freemium model, where you start free and then you escalate, if you will, with one of the paid tiers. There's no commitment. If you don't pay, you lose. End of story. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. And that's how it will be, because first of all, competition now in the post-COVID period, there will be a lot of consolidation in the hotel tech industry. I agree, many legacy players will simply go out of business or be acquired for pennies to the dollar. But there will be major consolidations in the hotel tech space.